Just imagine a beautiful paradise where there is greenery everywhere and animals roam around. But then, one small mistake, one innocent decision, and this paradise turns into a terrible nightmare. A nightmare that shook all of Australia. This is the story of an animal that we all love, but for Australia, it became the biggest enemy. Do you want to know how? Then get ready for a reality that will astonish you. This is Australia, a beautiful continent where unique animals like kangaroos and koalas live. But today we will tell you a story where an innocent animal, the rabbit, became a big problem for Australia. The story begins in 1788 when British ships arrived in Australia. There were also some rabbits on these ships, which were brought for food. Initially, their number was small. Then, in 1859, a rich man from England, Thomas Austin, imported 24 rabbits for his hunting hobby and released them on his farmhouse. He did not know that this step of his would one day become a huge disaster. The Australian climate was excellent for rabbits, and there were no natural predators here. Rabbits reproduce very quickly. One female rabbit can give birth to 18 to 30 babies in a year. In a few years, their population reached millions, and by 1920, the population of rabbits in Australia had become more than 10 billion. This was the fastest spread of any animal in the world. Rabbits rapidly spread throughout the continent, destroying farms and pastures. The uncontrolled population of rabbits caused great damage to Australia's environment and economy. Green pastures turned into barren lands and forests were destroyed. Rabbits started eating native plants, which caused many new plants to disappear. Their digging increased soil erosion and the land became barren. Rabbits began to compete with native animals for food, which led to a food shortage for kangaroos and other animals. Australia's agriculture also suffered severe damage. The rabbits destroyed crops and pastures, causing millions of dollars in losses to farmers. The government and farmers had to spend a lot to control them. The Australian government and people started a major war to deal with this rabbit disaster. This was not an ordinary fight, but a fight in which man used all his power against nature. One solution to this problem was thought to be, why not bring the natural enemies of rabbits to Australia? The idea was that these predator animals would naturally control the rabbit population and the problem would be solved. This was an experiment called biological control. Under this project, several predatory animals were brought to Australia. First, foxes were brought from Britain because they were famous for hunting rabbits there. After that, feral cats, which were already present in several areas, were also spread further. Their purpose was also to hunt rabbits, and some birds of prey like hawks and eagles were also brought, who kept an eye on rabbits from the sky. The government and groups of farmers together released these predator animals in different areas. Foxes were especially released in places where rabbits were causing the most destruction. Feral cats were released near railway lines and villages so that they could reduce the rabbits in the vicinity. And birds of prey were brought to places where they could easily keep an eye on the rabbits' burrows. Initially, it seemed that this plan was succeeding. In some areas, the number of rabbits actually started to decrease. The foxes were getting easy prey, and they were chasing the rabbits. For a moment, everyone thought that the problem was solved, but this happiness did not last long. Soon, this step turned into a major environmental problem. The foxes and cats, in addition to the rabbits, also started killing Australia's native and rare animals. The handicoot, bilby, and other small marsupials, which were already in danger, now became easy targets for these new predators. Rabbits also turned out to be very clever. They quickly adopted habits like making more burrows and being more active at night, which meant that the predator animals could not completely eliminate them. And not only that, The population of these predators also increased, and when the rabbits decreased, they started eating other small animals, which put many native species in danger. Seeing this disturbing situation, in 1901, the government of Western Australia made a big decision. They had to stop the rampant spread of rabbits, especially in the western regions where their numbers had not yet grown so large. The goal was to build a fence that would prevent rabbits from entering the western regions from eastern Australia. This was no ordinary farm fence. It was designed in such a way that rabbits could neither go over it nor make a tunnel under it. Special planning was done to build this fence. Its height was kept at about 1.8 meters, or 6 feet, so that no rabbit could climb it. The most important thing was that the lower part of the fence was buried 15 centimeters, or 6 inches deep in the ground, so that rabbits could not pass under it by making a tunnel. This fence was made of strong iron mesh and wooden posts, and you will be surprised to know its length. 3 such large fences were built, with a total length of 3,256 kilometers. This means that if you go from one end to the other, it was so long that half of Europe could be crossed. This great project was completed in several phases. First, the longest fence, which was called Fence 1, was completed with a length of 1,830 kilometers. After that, Fence 2 was built, which was about 1,166 kilometers long. And finally, Fence 3, which was about 257 kilometers, was built to increase protection in some areas. Building this fence was not an easy task. During construction, the workers had to face difficulties like extreme heat, lack of water, and working in remote forests. Sometimes parts of the fence would break in a storm or hurricane, and rabbits would immediately enter from that side. The workers had to stay with the fence and monitor it so that no gaps were left. This was a continuous and difficult effort. When the fence was completed, it proved to be very effective for a few years, and the farmers of Australia breathed a sigh of relief. But the rabbits were not less clever. They also found new ways to cross this wall. Sometimes they would use tree roots or natural burrows to pass underneath. After rain or erosion, the soil would become soft, and they would make a tunnel under the fence. And the most surprising thing was that in some areas, humans themselves brought rabbits inside the fence for hunting or as pets, which started the problem again. This great fence, which was called the rabbit-proof fence when completed, stopped the advance of rabbits for some time, and the farmers' crops were saved. This project proved to be an important milestone in Australia's agricultural protection. However, with time it became clear that the fence alone was not enough. Other measures were also needed to stop the rabbits. Several methods were tried to control the growing population of rabbits in Australia, one of which was the use of poison. The most commonly used poison was 1080, whose chemical name was sodium fluoroacetate. It is a very powerful poison that, when it enters an animal's body, stops the process of making energy in its cells, causing the animal to die in a few hours. One advantage of this poison was that some native Australian animals naturally had resistance to it, meaning its effect on them was less. But despite this, there was always the danger that other non-target animals, that is, those animals which were not intended to be killed, could also be affected by this poison. The poison was usually mixed with wheat grains, oats, or pieces of carrots. This was done so that the rabbits who liked these foods would easily eat them. In the first phase, only food without poison was placed, which was called pre-feed. The purpose of this was to make the rabbits accustomed to these places and to expect to find food there. After this, poisoned food was placed in the same places. The timing of placing the poisoned food was also very important. This was mostly done in winter or dry seasons, when rabbits had a shortage of food and would easily eat the food that was laid out. In this way, the chances of the poison being effective increased. The use of poisoned food led to a significant reduction in the number of rabbits in many areas. In some places, up to 90% of the rabbits were eliminated. This gave temporary relief to the farmers. The fields became green again, and greenery returned to the lands. But the problem was that the reproduction rate of rabbits was very fast, and if even a few rabbits survived, their population would increase again in a few years. Therefore, this method, as effective as it was also dangerous. Many times, native animals would also die after eating this poisoned food, including those animals that were beneficial for the ecological system. Birds of prey or foxes that ate dead rabbits could also be affected by this poison. This poison was also extremely dangerous for humans, so strict safety rules were made for its use, and only trained teams could use it. The biggest and most durable weapon of rabbits in Australia were their deep burrows underground. These burrows were not just simple holes, but a complex network of tunnels, several meters deep, inside which dozens of rabbit families could easily live. The walls of these burrows would become strong with hard soil or stone, due to which they would not easily collapse in rain or human digging. This was the reason that when hunting dogs chased rabbits, they would immediately disappear into these burrows, and it would become almost impossible to get them out. The government and scientists had understood that unless these safe homes of the rabbits were destroyed, their population could not be permanently reduced, because no matter how many rabbits were killed, if the burrows remained, a few remaining rabbits would reproduce in the same safe shelters. This was exactly like when a fire is extinguished, but its sparks remain. They can become a flame again. Several methods were used to destroy these burrows. Big tractors and bulldozers were used to dig the ground and break these tunnels. These machines would disturb the soil so much that the rabbits could not use that place again. In some places, explosives were placed inside the burrows and detonated so that the tunnels would collapse from the inside, and no air passage would remain. In hilly or rocky areas where machines were difficult to reach, laborers and hunters would dig the burrows with their hands or tools and fill them with soil or stones. Sometimes, poisonous smoke or gas was filled in the burrows so that the rabbits inside would die or come out, and then the passages would be immediately closed. This process was not easy. In some parts of Australia, the burrows were spread for miles, and it would take months to completely eliminate them. Due to hard soil and rocky ground, digging would become difficult. After rain, when the soil became soft, rabbits often dug new burrows. Therefore, this work had to be repeated again and again. This strategy had a significant effect on the rabbit population, especially in those areas where the burrows were completely eliminated. Rabbits did not return in large numbers. However, this method was labor-intensive and expensive, so it was often used in combination with other methods. In some parts of the country they used hunting and shooting, but this was like a drop in the ocean. Then, when all these methods failed, scientists used a new weapon: viruses. In the 1950s, the myxoma virus was introduced, which reduced the rabbit population by 90 to 99%. This was a great success, but the rabbits still did not give up. Some rabbits developed resistance against this virus, and their numbers started to increase again. In 1995, another virus, the rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus, or RHDV, was introduced. It also reduced the rabbit population, but once again, nature found its way. Nowadays, a combination of different methods is used to control the rabbits in Australia. This is a war that is still going on, a continuous effort where an attempt is being made to establish a balance between man and nature. This story teaches us that sometimes the biggest wars are fought against those small creatures that we consider weak. This story of rabbits in Australia teaches us an important lesson: how dangerous the introduction of foreign animals into any environment can be. A small mistake, a human hobby, became a disaster that lasted for more than a century for an entire continent. Even today, rabbits are a big challenge for Australia's environment and agriculture. Completely eliminating their population may not be possible, but the continuous struggle to keep them under control is ongoing. This is a war that may never end, a constant reminder that man must learn to live in harmony with nature. So, my dear friends, how did you like our informative video? Do let us know your opinion in the comment box. And if you liked our informative video, do share it with your friends. And for more such informative and historical videos, be sure to subscribe to our channel, Aifar TV. Thank you.